Hello, I'm Dr. Ron England, and this is a 10-minute tour of Prezamaker, which is basically the code name for my Seattle tool for course management and development. So, I'm just going to give you kind of what it does. And I think for people who actually teach classes, this will be a tool that is amazing. Well, right now, I've actually got a couple of courses that I've put into the system, but what I'm really going to show you are what the features are. So I'm going to click on first, develop. Well, first I'm going to click on settings because it's an agentic course, which means that if you're going to play with it and you're going to use the features, you need to get an API key for one of the different AIs. If you've got a subscription to any of these AIs, you've already got the ability to get an API key because we call the AI through the API, the programming interface, not through the browser. However, it's very easy to do. So if you were to click on any one of these hot links, it would take you to the page where you can get the API key. Okay, and it's not a hard process. Okay. If you want to use the text-to-speech features, that's a little bit more challenging. You've got to get Google TTS and set up a credentials file. I'm not going to go over that. Okay. Now, what this does is it develops and manages courses. And I'm going to take you through. So if I were to go first to develop a course, okay, hit the button that says develop course. It is capable of creating an entire outline of a course from any of these content sources that you have here. And most of the time what I do is I just point it to a web page where I've got some, like an existing syllabus with topics is going to be able to produce a pretty decent course. You can add any extra information that you want, and then you just hit the generate button, and I will give you an example. This is a generated course called Principles of Quality Assurance. And it created 25 modules of this course, which is these are the 25 modules shown in the main screen. Now, I can go and say, let's look at the first module. I'm going to hit Manage Module here. And this is how this works. There's a description here. The screens are a little tight. I think at some point I'm going to go ahead and make them a little bit bigger. But the first module of the course that I'm creating was actually Fundamentals of Quality in Manufacturing and Biotechnology. It was actually the manufacturing quality was the primary, but we added biotechnology to this course. Now, if you hit this button here, it will actually allow you to create a hierarchy of the information in the course. However, what I'll do here is I'll close this and we'll just browse this hierarchy. So what is a hierarchy? Well, this module has a set of topics underneath it, which you can see with more detailed information about those topics. So let's say in defining quality control and quality assurance, you've got a topic, what is quality assurance, which has some notes, a body of what it is, and some specific items about that. And there's this for every single one of the topics. Like what is Six Sigma methodology? Well, at this level, it doesn't have to go into a tremendous amount of detail, but this is generated from the program. So once you've done that, you can now start making real solid content for your course and organize it. Now, if you look here, you can see this is a sample course, and you can see some of the things that I've done. Okay, but if I go back and I look at this module, I've got these different things, types of content that I can create. I have presentations. I can generate a presentation from the topics, manage the slides. I can create narrations, basically textual narrations and audio narrations of the actual content. So in other words, I can create a speech file that attaches to the module. And I can actually embed that into my PowerPoint files and produce a video from that. So those are things that it can do. Okay, I'm not going to go into the export and managing of images. It'll actually extract images from PowerPoints. It'll let you have, it basically is an image library. but I'm not done, so I'm not going to do a whole lot there. I do like to generate quizzes and assessments. If I wanted to create a quiz specifically on defining quality control and quality, what I would do is I'd say, you know what, if I want 5 multiple choice questions, I can hit generate. This is an agentic program. It goes out to the AI and it makes it. Now, what it does have the ability for you to do is look at all of the prompts that it does. Now, I can look at, what is the definition of quality control? What is the mantra in orientation? QC and biotechnology, ISO 9000, I can delete them. I can, save them to my quiz bank. Okay, I add them to the quiz bank. So let's look at the quiz bank. The quiz bank, now I've only got 5 questions because that's all I've done. But one thing that most people really like about this is I don't know if you can see it because it goes off the screen. Let me go up here a little ways. I have the ability to take the quiz bank and export it in either QTI, that would be Canvas, or CSV Brightspace, that would be D2L. Okay, it just imports into those and you've got a quiz. Boom. Okay, so that's a neat little feature that you've got right there. You can now create assignments, and it does actually, and it goes through the individual topics that you've got, and you can say all of these different types of assignments. You can give it specific instructions. You can tell it how you want it to be submitted, and you can tell it about how big of an assignment do you want it to be. And it will do, and it actually does a really good job of building the assignment. And notice that you have this preview prompt. There's nothing you can't do from the command interface of any of the AIs that this thing does. I mean, you can just make all those prompts yourself, but you get to be the one that goes through and organizes all this information. And this does it based on that hierarchy that it generated for you. So that's a pretty nice thing. It also has the ability to generate interactive activities. This is the library of interactive activities. You've actually got a template. But let's go here and look at some of the templates you have here. This is my template library that I've generated. These are just typically types of interactive assignments that I do all the time. I can set up a learning objective. There's my bloom. I'm going to say solve, and I'm going to solve root cause analysis methods. I don't think that actually is pretty much, I can say implement root cause analysis methods, and I can then create an actual learning objective for this. And I've even got the ability to let the AI suggest some ideas that it can get, and it generates the concepts, and it will actually create these really cool interactive that look a lot like games. It's gamifying of stuff that you can do. Wow. Okay, that's it. The last one I have is the custom material piece, which is a big screen. You can't really see this one here. But what it does is it takes all these sources that you can do, and then you give it a specific prompt. And this is an iterative process for this one. And the objective is to create an interactive HTML or one of these other types of documents. By the way, the PDF, CSV, JSON, and QTI are actually not coming soon anymore. I've built them. You're just not seeing that version. So we've been working on that. And I do have this nice little history where you can see what you've been doing and building it. I don't have any material that I've generated for this specific course. If you see one of my touring lectures, you'll get to see my Dogs 101 with all its really cool interactive material that I've created. All right, got 1 minute left. So what other features does it have, which is really kind of nice? Well, I'm going to go backwards because you saw some of the export things. But one of the things that really does do well is this export, and it is Git enabled. So if you use GitHub, because multiple people work on courses simultaneously, and if you have created this entire course right here, you can export it to give to somebody else. If you don't use GitHub, that's very useful because it has an import feature right there. So you can import a course, but it also has the ability to take your module set and all these great materials that you've developed and publish it as a website. And it specifically publishes it locally, but it also gives you Git features that go with that. So it's going to put it on your hard drive, but once it's on your hard drive, you can also, that whole thing is Git enabled. So 1 minute here and I am done. That is the big overview of this tool. I hope that this looks like it's something that could be useful. It should be out by in a release version by sometime in July 2026, because that's my goal. Thanks very much. This is my beta of it, and I am soliciting beta testers. So hey, if you contact me and you can give good beta feedback, I'll consider you. That's it.